Hello, I'm David D. Hilscher. I am a critical thinker, dissident scientist, and I'm here to tell you the truth about science, something university professors won't tell you, the mass media won't tell you, and certainly those science evangelists won't tell you. One of the truths I want to talk about today is consensus. Consensus is one of those things that mainstream science, people who have YouTube channels that talk about science, who try to explain to us all these amazing things that they say science has, and they're difficult for us to understand. So we're going to talk to you about it. The problem with them, with us, that is the critical thinkers, the mainstream has with we, critical thinkers, dissident scientists, is that we don't have a consensus. They have these rules that the universe has rules, and we will discover them, and there will be consensus. Science is that way. 1 + 1 = 2. That's the law. Of course, we know in mathematics that the square root of -1 in real number systems the real number system has a real problem. See my videos on my favorite mathematician, Peter Eriksson, on that. So just because we use systems, just because we have models, just because we have theories, just because we have mathematics, doesn't mean there's consensus. In fact, our systems are imperfect and always will be. And this is one of the problems, of course, it's arrogance in mainstream science because they say, no, 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 you just don't know. You have to go to school, you must learn everything. I've talked a lot about this. But the problem with the idea of consensus is that if there was a change, if there's going to be a change, a paradigm shift in science right now, well, then we're going to have a consensus. Somebody's going to come along like that famous surfer dude. I don't remember his name because, no offense, it's not interesting. The theory is so far out there. It's the epitome of fabricated, invented theories. Well, these people out there, they think, well, maybe this is the guy we're going to jump on and he's going to have the answer. Maybe this is it. Maybe that is it. The truth of the matter is we are in a time in science that we don't have consensus amongst the dissonants, the critical thinkers outside of mainstream. We come to a lot of consensus, yes. We have a consensus that the Big Bang is a big problem. We're consensus that particle physics has gone awry. It is a huge mess. We are also agreed upon that plate tectonics needs a better model. Expansion tectonics is one of those things that has a big following outside the mainstream. We have other theories of how the world works. You know, the universe, for instance, the four that I talk about is the ether theories, the particle theories, the action at a distance theories, and the lattice theories. Those are 3 or 4 theories that are competing outside the mainstream right now. And we have different camps. Ether is very popular. It's got a lot of big problems, in my opinion, but it is very popular. It could be the next theory. My model is a particle model with my father. Maybe that won't become the consensus. Maybe the problems will be too big. But regardless, they're just going to look and say, look, go to their conferences. Everybody has their own pet theory. Well, what happens is when some system breaks down, you've got to try things. You've got to brainstorm. You got to find out what's going wrong. And yes, we have consensus about what's going wrong. We even have consensus about the way to talk. Like most everything we talk about is a concept. There are very few real things in the universe. Force is a concept. Energy is a concept. We use them. Are they important? Yes, please. What you're going to write down below. Yeah, but force, charges, fundamental forces. These are things that we use quite a bit, but doesn't mean that they're actual things in the universe. These are some of the things that we talk a lot about in our organization, in our society. But again, if you look at people who come from the outside, you can look at, for instance, Margaret Wortham in her book, Physics on the Fringe, which is actually a very good book. I reread it the other day. I read pretty fast, and I will tell you, It's not that bad. She is very careful not to step on people's toes, even though afterwards, when she was doing her tour, she got a little bit rambunctious to say things like, nothing will ever come about from anybody in our group, which of course is not a great thing. But one of the things she says in the book is that they're sort of like, they're all the saviors. We're all going to save the world. We all have our theories. And this can't be, because science in the universe is one thing, and as we discover it, yes, there are atoms. There are things that we are very sure of. How do they function? Whoa, we don't really know. Now, of course, yes, we do, because we have all these particles, but that's where science is broken down. And that's why we have thousands of scientists from around the world who, when they spend time to really look at this stuff, they find out these errors. But again, it comes back to the idea, well, the people that are outside of mainstream, they can't agree on anything. So it's just a bunch of people preach, a bunch of sellers with no buyers. It's a bunch of theories that people are lost, because let's face it, if something was right, they'd all agree upon it, and that would be the new model, and we'd all follow it. Well, someday that may happen. Or we may find out that several models will be useful. Maybe the ether theory will be very useful to do certain things. The particle theory will be useful to do other things. Action at a distance will be good at with still other things. And then lattice theories will be good at yet another. We don't know, but we are in a shake-up time. And that shake-up time, and that it appears in paradigm shifts. If you read through the history of science, you'll find out that when you come to these paradigm shifts, the time where something's going to change, is when science becomes a religion. And that's what it is, because if you go to any university and try to criticize any mainstream theory, you're in real trouble. They'll literally shut the door and tell you, hey, you want a career in this area, you're not going to do this. That's not critical thinking. That's not science. That's not the way we do it. Now, they don't talk about this because they don't know what to do, because they realize, I think, deep down inside, when you really put people's backs against the wall, and I have one person in my film who was kind enough who is a person who believes Einstein to be correct. He said in the conversation with my mother in the film, EinsteinWrong.com, go see it. You can see it for free. Look at my videos. A video on that for the 100 subscribers. Get it free, I tell you. Go take a look at it. He, in the end of that conversation, says, well, it could be that somebody's going to come and point out some big flaw that we haven't seen, and then we're going to have to throw everything out and have a new model. Of course, we have those already. It's just that I don't know what they're waiting for. I'm not sure. But maybe the models aren't good enough yet, and maybe that's the problem. But that's one of the reasons people shy away from us, is we don't have consensus. Therefore, if we don't have consensus, it's not worth even looking at. It's not worth it. Let them do it. And if something comes interesting out of it, then it will. It won't happen, of course, as we know. Margaret Wortham says that. But that is something that is really on the minds of a lot of people. If someone wants to interview me on a mainstream science channel, I'm very polite. I don't get out there and tell people they're idiots because they still believe in Einstein, or they still believe in particle physics, most of modern particle physics, or plate tectonics. No, what I am here to do is to show people, those people who are critical thinkers, people who are looking for truth, there are people out there who have found many problems, and there are quite a few problems with relativity. There are hundreds, thousands of papers, hundreds of books written on the subject. My goal is to let people know that those are out there, and they're actually quite interesting, and that if you take the time to do that, you'll find that there's a problem. What's going to happen? You're going to go home after you read all these things and finally conclude that there's problems, that you're going to come up with a theory, and we're all going to rally around it, and there's going to be consensus, and we're going to have a paradigm shift. It takes a long time, folks. It especially takes a longer time, because people in the mainstream are so emotionally attached to what they do. They are so financially attached to what they do that they're not going to want to change. And therefore, their excuse is until you get consensus, until you find that perfect thing, we're not budging. But the good news is there are thousands of people like myself, brilliant people. Yes, they're from great universities, and those people who are detractors and people who worry about that and titles, they go, oh, well, yeah, you don't have titles. But then when I tell them people from our group have PhDs from MIT, what do they say? Well, that doesn't mean anything. Oh, you're just trying to be, you can't win. But anyways, I think that's a very interesting thing to keep in your mind. Think about it. Consensus is one of those things you have to be aware of. And when you talk to somebody in the mainstream, if you're a critical thinker, you have to say, okay, yeah, we're in a time where we have 3 or 4 or 5 competing theories. We have 3 or 4 or 5 camps of competing theories. We don't know which one's going to win, but at least we're out there trying. And remember what I said, don't take my word on faith, anyone's word on faith. Stay critical, stay thinking. I'm Dave D. Hilscher. I'm your science therapist. I hope this is helping out. And I hope I'm giving you a little bit just different perspective on science, because that's what my channel's all about. Ciao for now.